Hey everyone, today I'm going to take a look at OpenMandriva 24.12. OpenMandriva is the successor to the late great Mandrake Linux. OpenMandriva also comes in two main release flavors, Rock and Rome. Rock and Rome! And also, in addition to that, there's a Cooker edition. Cooker is like the bleeding edge nightly releases, so you can even get that as well. But Rock is the long-term point release, which would be especially appealing to individuals or maybe businesses that need stability over having the latest and greatest software. Although their current software stable is quite up to date. Don't let the Rock part fool you too much. But Rome, in contrast, is the rolling release version, where your releases are just kind of rolled over automatically as they come. Also, one of the things that really appeals to me about OpenMandriva is that they're an independent project. So they're not based on anyone else. And they also don't play into the political nonsense you hear about a lot of times with other projects like Debian and Ubuntu or what have you. So they don't really care about what your ideology is or any of that kind of bull crap. Instead, they focus on what's important, like making the best project they can and making great contributions to the Linux ecosystem. And so to me, I think that's great. I don't know why people play into all this other kind of nonsense or why they feel that it's important to show off how conditioned and lobotomized they are by their chosen form of propaganda, whether right or left, doesn't matter. But the OpenMandriva project is an independent distro, like I said before, so they don't waste their energy on political BS, which I find really appealing. I also appreciate how they stuck up for the Ex Libre project, too. I remember not too long ago, the big boys, and I can't remember off the top of my head because I don't follow the political nonsense that much, but I do remember hearing something about, I think maybe Red Hat and Canonical were kind of pounding on the Ex Libre project, and somebody actually banned them from their repos or forums or whatever. So more nonsense, which I think is kind of ridiculous. What did OpenMandriva do? They took the opposite approach. They included Ex Libre into their repos, and they support their right to exist, thrive, and become a viable alternative to Wayland. Now that is a project I can admire. Double thumbs up to OpenMandriva already before I even dive in. And with that, I'm going to get off my soapbox and let's just jump in here and take a look at this baby. So here I am. I'm at the boot-in screen here for the live image, and I'm just going to go ahead and jump in and let's get in, install this. And I believe this is the KDE X11 version as well. That, I believe, is their flagship. That's what came up in the SourceForge as the recent release on the button there. So I'm assuming that. And I like the idea that it's the X11 Plasma because I have less problems in that version. Although you can go full Wayland as well if you wish. I believe those ISOs are out there. So here's our desktop. We got our OpenMandriva welcome screen. So right off the bat, it looks really nice here. And I think I'm going to go ahead and just get right down to business and install this. Here's our welcome screen, which is beautiful welcome screen for OpenMandriva, which we'll explore after the install. But I'm going to go ahead and close this right now and just jump right into the installer. So we're opening up our, what I believe is the Calamares installer. So this should be quite straightforward and that looks good. So I'm let me change that time zone there. There we go. So that looks good. And let's jump over to next. And then next again, because it automatically detected everything, I'm going to go ahead and erase the disk because I don't have anything on here that's vitally important that I need to keep. And then I'm going to select swap to file. And I'm going to stay with extend for, but here you can see you got your other options like Btrfs and so forth. And then I'll just go ahead and type in my username and password. And then I'm going to check in, use the same password for my administrator account. Excellent. And with that, I'm going to hit next here, and then I'm going to install, and then install now. And here we go. So we're off. And this shouldn't take long, so I'm going to go ahead and pause the video, and I'll be back right after it's done. Okay, and there we are. We're all set. So that didn't take long at all. I think about 4 minutes or so. A really fast install, which impresses the heck out of me already. So I'm going to go ahead and just restart here. and then we'll see how everything worked out. Okay, so now we're restarting and everything is looking good so far. We got our splash screen, so that's always an encouraging sign. And we should be coming up to our login any second now. There it is. So I'm going to go ahead and just log right in. And now we're loading in our Plasma desktop. Excellent. And there we are. We're back to our welcome screen, like what we saw in our live version. And since we got that open, let's explore it a little bit. So under features here, we got this little side menu here on the left-hand side. And it's showing that our current kernel version, our KDE Plasma, which is 6.34, LibreOffice, OpenMandriva. So here we can do our software repository selector. So if we click on the icon here, it'll open up our selector utility. And then we got this little box here. And here we can see that Rox is selected by default. And actually, I'm using Rock on another computer, and I like Rock just fine. It says if you go forward, there's no going back. So once you jump up to rolling, it's permanent. So you don't want to go backwards. So you want to be sure if you're going to select that. And then here we got our different repo options here, like enabling testing lab repos. Here I'm going to enable the extra, the restricted, and the non-free. What the heck? Fortune favors the brave, the bold. And so I'm also going to check a couple of these other ones just for the heck of it. So I check the Brave browser, Visual Studio Code, which I like VS Codium actually, but I just checked it for illustrative purposes. And then that'll activate those repos there. Here we got our application update config, so we could go in here and just, again, I selected the icon over to the left there, to the right. And so now it needs authentication here a couple of times. And it's prompting all these. I think those are for each of the options that I selected for the repos. So I believe that's what that's in response to. Each checkbox that I check there needs an individual approval, so to speak. So that's what that's from, in case you're a little confused. So now I'm going to just jump in here in the console, and I'm just going to do a refresh distro sync here because it kind of gave me that message. And that should update our repos to everything that I checked in that box, those boxes. So now you can see that our extra, restricted, and non-free are all coming up. I'm glad to see that. And I'm going to say yes to that. So now that's just going to update everything for me, and at the same time update those repos. So I got all these extra packages available for me because I'm good with actually having some proprietary things available. I like having the option to be able to use it if I should choose so in the future. So that's always good. And then here I'm just going to go with the default here, yes, to update the package. Slide this down out of the way, and let's see what else we got. Here we got our OpenMandriva application update config. By default, it's do not download updates automatically, where I think that's where most people like it, but you can also opt for these other options like download and install the updates automatically, or just download the updates automatically but install manually. So good options there, and I don't really have a big issue with any of them actually. I'm just going to go ahead and authenticate there. I'm not sure why I had to authenticate to that. I didn't do anything, but that's okay. Maybe I just missed something. Then we got our fresh packages, web browser. By default is the ungoogled Chromium, and then our automatic build farm. So I don't know too much about this, but I think maybe it's actually more related to their development files. Not really sure there, but let's pop over to our other stuff here. We got our system, hardware, software, desktop, security, system update. And some of these were what we already looked at here, but under these tabs, we have a lot of recommended packages that we could install. Even a guest account or configuring the network, which is a nice. So actually, these are more configurations here. For hardware, we got NVIDIA drivers to install. If you have NVIDIA, configure your printer here. And OpenMandriva is pretty good with HP and Epson's and even Brother printers I've installed on OpenMandriva without any issues. So very cool there. And then under software management here, we got our Yum extender. You can find additional apps with DNF Dragora, which is a pretty good app. And then our OpenMandriva repo picker, which we were just in earlier. And then under desktop, you can install some additional desktops like the Cosmic desktop, which is a pretty good option. In fact, I might even just install that for fun. And then here we got a bunch of different fonts here we can manage as well. So that's a pretty handy utility. I'm kind of liking that. And quite a long comprehensive list there as well. Cool. And then moving on, let's take a look at change and install your favorite icons and themes. So this is pretty much a shortcut to your settings menu here. And you could change your themes there, which I think I'll save for later when I'm in the settings. Here's Cosmic Desktop. So if you want to install that, it's as easy as just clicking on that icon. And I think I'm just going to say yes for fun here. And maybe we'll take a peek at it in a little while just to see how it looks and see how it went with the install. So that's kind of cool. And you can also do the same thing with the GNOME Desktop or the LX Qt. So very cool there as well. I'm liking it. You can also change your desktop icons if you don't want to be in the setup there. So it looks like that has succeeded no problem. So we'll check that out in a little while. Cool. And finally, we got over here, we got change or install your favorite icons theme. So if we click on that, here we have our pop theme added in here because we installed the Cosmic Desktop. And actually, of the choices, I kind of like that the best. So let me just slide that over and click on that. And then let's apply it and see how it looks. Now, if I remember right, Dolphin doesn't really update dynamically, but I'll probably have to close it and open it again. But I like that theme, so I think I might go with that. So I'm going to go ahead and just open that back up again. And there we go. Nice. I'm liking it. So there we got our pop icon theme. And of course, you can choose from gazillions of icons off the internet through the setup in the Plasma settings there. So now if we go over here to applications, it's got a lot of recommended applications. These are different recommended Office programs, which you can choose from just off the fly here, which is pretty comprehensive and a welcome app, I think. And then of course we got our graphics and more cool stuff to choose from, like GIMP and Inkscape, some of my standards that I always install. And then under Internet, we have some recommended Internet apps here like Thunderbird for your email, Telegram, Dropbox, and so forth. And here we got our browsers. We got our Brave browser, which should be downloadable since I activated that repo. We got Firefox and so forth. I'm just going to hit yes for installing the Brave browser. And then I'm going to authenticate here. And theoretically, since we activated that repo, that browser should actually install. So I'm going to slide that off to the side while it's thinking there. And let's explore some more. So I'm going to hit multimedia up here. And then we got our codecs. So if you want to add more codecs to the mix there, we can click on that and get easy access to that. We got cool apps like Audacity. I see OBS Studio over there. But codecs is actually cool. I'm going to install that. That's always a good thing to have. Can never have too many codecs, in my opinion. So I'm going to hit that and just kind of let that run off on the side there too. And I got my GPU screen recorder and OBS Studio. And I'm going to let that run too. It's probably taking its time a little bit here. I got a lot of things running in the background, so that's probably slowing things down in addition to my OBS software streaming. Okay, so we got a successful install there on the browser. Nice. Under development, we got cool things to choose from. C++ compiler suite. We got our Qt designer, also Qt creator. So very nice to have easy access to that. And then the GAM BAS IDE, which is an IDE for BASIC, which is actually quite cool. Then here's our RPM packaging suite. So that's probably a worthwhile find as well. And then under utilities, we got FileZilla, which is a great utility for FTP. Wine, Proton, beautiful. I'm loving that too. And even Unrar, that is nice. Then we got our educational programs here, provide some good content with, and then kids items and games. So yes, lots to choose from there. And then again, back to our repos. So we've already selected that. And then finally our contribute icon here. So this is important because we always want to contribute, right, to good, worthwhile projects. And then, of course, it's got all kinds of credits here to the people that helped make this project possible. I'm just going to authenticate there. I never authenticated for those codecs, so kind of forgot about those. No wonder it was taking so long. So let me authenticate there. It was just waiting on me forever. I guess that screen was hidden behind the window, apparently. So here, let's pop over to our app menu. And before that, it looks like the codecs were successful. I'm happy. And here's our app menu, and we got actually the very basic app menu. But let me just open our settings real quick, and I'll probably make that app menu a little more fancy too in a little bit. But let's pop up here and just take a look at our theming. I just selected the Breeze Dark here in our quick selector. Our quick selector gives us quick access to some of the things that we would probably use the most. And changing it to dark theme is one of them. Another one is clicking files or folders. So by default, it goes with a single click and then it'll take you in there. Personally, I like double clicking instead. So I'm going to select item first when you click it. For me, that's just more comfortable. I like the traditional way. And then we got our wallpaper settings and even global themes. But I'm just going to pop down and let's take a look at our keyboard settings. This is typically where I go next when I'm setting up for KDE. I like to go in here and set my numlock at startup. And then here we can do our keyboard shortcuts as well. So if you want to set up keyboard shortcuts, which I typically do, then we can do them here. And it's very easy to do in KDE. You don't have to go in there and manually edit config files or anything like that. It's all visually done. So if you're a visual person like I am, you'll especially enjoy this. So I can go in here and, for example, use Control-Alt-T as the default for Konsole, but I could actually change that if I want to like super enter or whatever. So those are options. Or you can also add it to it instead of changing. So that's another nice option. So Control-Alt-T by default will just bring that right up. We can also add keyboard shortcuts for any number of these, or we could add our own applications as well. And then under KWin, we can also do shortcuts for the different windows, like if you want to manipulate workspaces and all that, and move windows and so forth, which is cool. Let's go to wallpaper here in our selector and just see what we got to select from in wallpaper. That's also, you can right click there on the desktop. So yeah, a lot of nice looking wallpapers in here actually. And I think I'll just kind of do a change here, just to go with something different. A lot of the nice OpenMandriva branded ones. Kind of like that penguin too. That's got some nice colors in it. Let's take a look at that. I'm going to click on that and then hit apply. And there we got our penguin in space. Cool. And he's in a nice cold environment where he's comfortable. So he probably likes that little asteroid or whatever he's on. Nice. Then we got our colors. I like setting our accent colors to wallpaper generally. So I'm going to select that here, accent color. So by hitting apply, that changes our accents and our folder colors. So beautiful. I'm liking it. I'm going to keep it. Here we can change our icons if we wish, which I'm pretty good with the pop. You can also install from internet and it'll give you a ton of choices. Here in our KWin scripts, I'm going to add in a new script here. I like the tile on KDE, so I'm going to look for a script, but not there. That was installed from file. I want to install from the internet, which is get new labeled there. So here we got Kronkite, which just came up, and I think this was invented by Walter Kronkite. He used to be a news anchor way back in the day. Just kidding. So here we got our Kronkite. And if we hit apply now, all of a sudden, we are tiling. Cool. So this is a really nice tiler. I really like this in KDE. And then you can set up window rules with it to have certain applications float or open in different workspaces or virtual desktops. And so my video card is temporarily going flaky there. But I think my GPU is being a little stressed with all the stuff I'm running in the background here. But now it seems happy. I'm going to right click on the menu here, menu icon, and I'm going to select Application Launcher. That'll change my menu. To me, that looks a little nicer. The other one's just a little bit too basic for me. And if I click on those menu settings, I also want to check this box to switch the categories by hovering. So that's another thing I like. I'm just going to go ahead and select that. And now when I come up here, you can see my categories are now changing when I hover over them. So I like that. That is a nice setup. So I'm going to stick with that. Let's open up our Cosmic terminal, just for fun. Since we installed the Cosmic desktop, that has been added to the mix. Without installing that, we wouldn't have this. We would actually be using the console, the KDE console. But just wanted to take a look at it since we're in here. And back in our settings here, if I go into our general behavior, actually let's go up to window management and then virtual desktops. This is something I like to be able to use when I'm in KDE. And by default, it's already using 4, which is pretty nice. I'm going to scooch out of the way here. Our lock screen settings, which I typically turn off the lock screen. And then down here, we got our about. So here we can kind of see information about what we're running. Then we got our software update settings. And this kind of echoes the little utility that we were in earlier. And then, of course, we got our user settings. If I want to change that icon for our user, I could click on it and then go in here and maybe that kitten. I kind of like that. So I'm going to select the kitten. I'm a sucker for kitties. So let's hit apply. And then we got our auto start settings and our session. So that kind of covers that for our different settings. Let's kind of take a look at real quick some of our pre-installed apps. So we got like our games here. We got K-Patience for our game, which is a solitary game. We got our favorites, so Chromium, Contact, System Settings, things that we used recently. And then graphics, our internet, we got our Brave browser installed, so that looks like that set up just fine. I'm going to click on it just to make sure it's really there. And it is nice. So glad to see that there, looking good. And I'm just going to save that as default and then go with dark mode. And then sure, I'll help. I'm always glad to contribute and finish. So now we're in our Brave browser and it looks like it's all good. I'm liking that. Installed without a hitch. And if we go into our help and about, we can kind of just get a gander at our version here. So it's Brave 1.80.120 as of the time of this video, based on Chromium 138.0.7204. Beautiful. Okay. So we know we're good there. And so if we come back up here, we got multimedia, we got Kden Live installed by default. Very cool. Office, left room. Office is LibreOffice. And then here we got our different system utilities here. So nice. And you can see the Cosmic stuff mixed in too, since I added the Cosmic desktop as well, which is always fun. So let's just kind of jump in here. This is Spectacle. So you can do a screenshot. I like their screen shooter. So right now I did select a region. So I could just select a region of our desktop, which I'll just select these folders here just to be illustrative. And then we'll go ahead and save that. And I think that saved into our picture folder there by default. Looks like, yeah, called screenshot. And I can click on that and just open it directly in my picture viewer. So I can see it here. And it looks like a perfect screenshot. Nice. And then if you just want to verify where it saved it to, we can go into our pictures and it generated a screenshot folder. And there's our picture right there. So that's how easy peasy it is to take screenshots with Spectacle. That's a nice little utility in my opinion. And then we got Discover, our software center. So if we open up Discover, we can pop in here and it's going to update all the metadata because I'm opening this for the first time. So there's no icons or anything populated yet. And while that's opening, I'm just going to sit here and look dumb. That's easy to do. And here we go. Oh, that looks better. Let me just get this window out of the way. All right. So here we got our home screen with a bunch of different recommended apps here. So let's click on some of these things here to look at. So under IDEs, we got Android Studio. Wow. All program languages. And so forth. And then here we got a bunch of cool graphics items. And I'm just going to do a search for Inkscape here. And there's Inkscape coming right up on the screen. And that looks pretty good. So let's see what that is. There was an issue during update. Fascinating. Okay. then let me just do it in here in the console. I prefer doing the console anyway, but let's do a sudo dnf install Inkscape. There we go. This way in the console I can kind of see what's going on, so it looks a lot nicer this way. It's actually quicker. That's why I prefer installing via the console. And you can install multiple apps at the same time. I could add in Inkscape and GIMP and who knows what else, and just kind of download them basically at the same time. So now let's do a sudo nano, because I noticed that yes is not the default answer, so I'm going to do a sudo nano etc dnf/dnfconf, and then I want to scroll down to the bottom here, and I want to type in default hyphen yes. Is it default hyphen? I can't remember. Equals true. Actually, default yes should be all one word there. So default yes. I think that's better. Okay, that should do the trick. No hyphen. I was kind of sketchy on the hyphen part. So, all right. Now we got our default yes. So we got Y there by default. That's much better. And there we go. So cool. Got my conf file edited. And let's go into BTOP since we're in here and just take a look at our stats. So 1.45 gigs of RAM, and considering I'm on a VM and also running in KDE, that's kind of about what I would expect to see there. And you can see we got Xorg there as our compositor. Nice. And not sure what the process was running, but that's okay. I'm out of there. So let's pop over to, here we got our power menu. I'm going to log out. And let's log out now. And let's go explore the Cosmic desktop. Woohoo! So you can see down here under our sessions in the list, we got Cosmic. So I went ahead and selected that. And then I'll just log in and let's see if that actually worked, installing the desktop from the welcome screen. And it's looking pretty cosmic to me. I see a spacey background. Cool. And there's our welcome screen. Our bar at the top, nice. And we got our Cosmic status bar down here, or our dock. So there's our Cosmic file browser. I forgot what it's called, but I guess for now I'll just call it Cosmic file browser. And I got a little bit of a double mouse action going on there with the cursor. That's just because I'm running a VM with Wayland, and Wayland and VMs don't play very nice together, so that's why you got that doubling effect. It has nothing to do with actual hardware, so if you install this on hardware, you're not going to see that double arrow, but I guess I can live with it for now, since we're just exploring anyway, right? So there's our Cosmic text editor, so I can pop in here and edit any kind of text I want. They have a really nice text editor. Actually, everything I like in Cosmic that they've done. So yeah, Cosmic has really got potential to be one of my favorite desktops, and it's already pretty much there as my favorite. And it's not even full release yet. So let's go in and let's set up our wallpaper. Just kind of take a look at our choices here. So a lot of spacey choices here, which is pretty suitable for Cosmic. I'm going to go ahead and select the Earth. That looks like a cool planet. I like it here, even though it's a little cooler than mine, but, you know, I mean, you did not hear that. Forget. Okay, let's go up to network and wireless. So these are our different settings that we can check out here in the Cosmic settings. Here's our displays if you want to change your resolution and your scaling and so forth. You can even render X11 apps at native resolution if you need to. Our sound settings, our power and battery is set at balanced by default, which is pretty reasonable, I think. For me, I would never turn off the screen, probably, but definitely never automatic suspend. And then we got our input devices. So here we can set up our keyboard. We can go down and do things like keyboard shortcuts and so forth. Under here, view and customize. So here we can manage windows and move windows, swap, toggle tiling is Super Y, so that's good to know. So I hit Super Y and boom, there we are. We're tiled. Nice. So Cosmic is really cool in this sense, and you can even set your tiling and floating per workspace as well, which I also like a lot. And so we got system window tiling. We can focus window up and down. So all these preset keyboard, and then switch to workspaces by default, Super 1, 2, 3, and so forth, which I like and it works. I just hit Super 2 and it went to Super 2. And now we're back to Super 1, Workspace 1. So really nice. You know, this kind of gives you the best of both worlds, the tiling and the floating experience. And that's one thing I think Cosmic just excelled in right off the bat. I didn't even have to use a plugin like Kronkite, even though I really like Kronkite. But it's nice to see this native in a desktop. Yeah, Cosmic is really right up there on my list. Here you got take a screenshot, which is your print screen button there on the keyboard by default. And of course you can change any of those just by selecting them and entering in a keystroke or combo. Nice. And then we have our time and language settings. And then our system accounts. So here we got our user accounts, about, Cosmic, and so forth. And so if I scroll down a little bit, I can get a little bit more details here. So it's showing our Wayland for our windowing system and our Cosmic environment, of course. And then our operating system, which is OpenMandriva 25.06, Rome, rolling at the moment. So yes, 24.12 is when the original ISO was created, but this is rolling. And we're currently at 2506. So quite current, actually. And then we pop over here, and I see everything is populated in here. So apparently, all I really had to do was just focus out of that window to let everything refresh and populate. So I don't think it really took that long for that stuff to load. I think it was a matter more of the screen refresh than anything. But here we can see a lot of different apps available, and these are specifically made for Cosmic in this category, which is nice. Even got the weather forecast in there. Nice. Then we got our tweaks. So we can actually tweak Cosmic. That's kind of cool. I don't know if that's something that will always be around because Cosmic has been evolving. And so I don't know. Some of these tweaks might actually become integrated as a normal part of Cosmic at some point, if they're not already, some of them. But that's kind of interesting. I thought I'd just download that anyway, just to take a look at it. But this is coming from FlatHub, so it's adding in a bunch of different flat packs. If you use this guy, I think Flatpak is probably, or FlatHub, if you want to be technical, is the default there, but you can also install directly from the repos, I believe. Yeah, so if we come up here, you can see there's also system, I guess, installed. So I think that means that you can also install from the repos. Not 100% sure there, but I'm pretty sure that's what that means. And so let's open our tweaks and just kind of take a look at that. See if we find anything different. So if we go down here, we can kind of see there's some docs tweaks there and color schemes, panel, our layout tweaks. So on the panel here, if we force button on the panel, and I'm going to jump out of the way and maybe shrink a little too. I'm a little overwhelming. There we go. So force icons, buttons, and panel, you can do that, or show panel, or not show panel. So that's cool. And wow, it looks like some pre-configured layouts, Mac OS. So if I hit that, I'm assuming it'll modify the dock. Yeah, to kind of give it a more OS kind of style to it, I guess. Windows. I'm thinking it's going to give us, yeah, a Windows taskbar there. Cool. And up on top, there's no panel there. So it's all on the bottom like Windows. Nice. I'm liking that. There's our sound items, and over here is our power bar, and then we got, of course, our open apps. Let's hit Ubuntu and see what that looks like. So now we got our bar over on the side. Nice, there it is. Looking good. And along with the top bar as well. Cool. And then back to Cosmic. Personally, I like the good old Cosmic default here, which I think is cool with the top bar and bottom dock. And there's our dock settings. We can adjust our panel settings, so our spacing, padding, and all that. We can make it look just like we want, and that's the items up there on top. Then under applications, we got our access to application menu, and then our different workspaces, which right now we only have 2 that are there. But if you physically go over to like workspace 3 and open something up, then 3 will appear in the list. Let's look at forecast. That's kind of interesting. The icon kind of looks like the GNOME forecaster, but I don't think it is exactly. So let's hit that and see what we got here. It might actually be better. Okay, so we'll hit download there. And then over here we got different color schemes. So that's kind of cool. Cosmic 95, Abyss. Kind of like that Abyss. Cyberpunk. Cosmic Cyberpunk theme. I kind of like that too, actually. Let's try it out and see what it looks like. So if I hit that and then click it again to install, it should install. Let's open forecast, and it's defaulting over to Denver, Colorado. Looks like 80 degrees there. Wow, that's almost the boiling point of water. Oh, wait a minute, that's Fahrenheit. Never mind. So let's see what this is. So let's, okay, so it added the cyberpunk stuff here to the color scheme. So I just clicked on it, and wow, that's pretty cyberpunky. Wow, kind of cool. I'm gonna go with this one. That's a little less in your face. I like it better with a dark theme. And it's kind of given a cool shade to the highlighters and the icons instead of a pure white. And the fonts, nice. And we can opt not to show our panel if we don't want the top panel there. And then back in our Cosmic File Manager, you can see the highlighting is pretty nice. So it all kind of goes in line with this theme. And all the fonts over there have that kind of pastel, I don't even know what you would call that color. It's kind of a cyberpunky pink, I guess, or peach. Nice. And then under here, under our menu, we got settings for the current workspace, toggle floating windows, Super G, active hint. And then we also got our keyboard settings, our Ethernet settings for our network, where we just were the current workspace, volume controls, mic controls. Another aspect to our networking, do not disturb. You can turn that on if you don't want to go into sleep mode. And then our power menu. Nice. Okay. So let me slide this down a little bit. And let's take a look at some of this. So here's our app menu. You can access it through the dock as well as up on top. And we got Kdenlive as our default for OpenMandriva. Nice. So I think we kind of went over some of this stuff already in KDE, but the Cosmic looks like it installed just fine without a hitch. And every time I come here into Cosmic, it seems like something new. It just seems to be a little bit better each time. I'm going to come back up here in the middle. So, wow. All I can say is, not only am I impressed, but I'm impressed. So yes, OpenMandriva is looking really sweet to me here. I really like that it gave me this Cosmic choice here to add the desktop to KDE, because as much as I like KDE, it's a little bit heavy, but I can be perfectly happy living in KDE. I use KDE actually fairly often, and I got it pretty much set up the way I have my other tiling window managers. I use Kronkite, pretty much like I added it in here on this video. And of course I add in workspaces, and then I set up window rules and all that. And I actually did that a few videos ago. I think it was back in January, give or take a couple hundred months. But what am I thinking of OpenMandriva? It seems like, just like the name, rock solid, even though I switched to rolling. But I actually got OpenMandriva on a different computer. It, I believe, is using the rock version. Don't think I ever had an issue with it. So yes, I mean, and it's just rock solid. It's one of those distros, it just works. And being independent shouldn't have to scare you, because their repos are just chock full of everything. And of course, if you're coming over from something else like Ubuntu or Arch or even Fedora, there's always DistroBox. So if you need to get access to one of your old repos, maybe you're coming over from Arch and you want the AUR, DistroBox. Yeah, I got that, and then that gives you full access to everything you had before. If there's something that you can't find right here, and I gotta tell you, I'm kind of hard pressed not to find things on OpenMandriva. It's really set up beautifully. Even if I want to develop things, it's already set up so I can develop. I can add in something like Qt Creator or make something in Python, and I pretty much got everything available. In fact, the other day I was playing around with Gemini CLI with Python, and I asked Gemini CLI to just create a simple Python script that would create a GUI using tkinter, and in that GUI it would just give me a text field and a submit button to show me the average true range for a 4x pair. any pair that I decided to enter into the text box or field, whatever you want to call it. And anyways, it created the whole thing, but there was a couple of dependencies, of course, that one being tkinter and the other, it utilized yfinance. I did this in Arch, actually, originally. So when I tried to run the Python script, it said, can't find tkinter. So, well, what a pain. So then I went to install tkinter, and for whatever reason, I couldn't get it to install, and it kept saying that it was outside the environment or whatever. So I just went ahead and used the package manager, and the package manager couldn't find it at first, and it was a real pain. But eventually I got tkinter installed. And then yfinance, I couldn't find that. It wasn't even in the chaotic AUR. So I had to go into the regular AUR using Yay, and it found it in there, and then I had to build it. So it had to build the package, and that took a little while. And then it finally worked. Well, when I got an OpenMandriva, I tried the same thing. I just brought that script over and popped it in my VM with OpenMandriva. And just like Arch, it said that it couldn't find tkinter and it didn't know what I was talking about with yfinance. But you know what? I did a DNF install for both tkinter and yfinance, and boom, put them in, done. So it was actually easier than Arch, which really kind of shocked me. So there's a testament to, for whatever it's worth, to how good OpenMandriva is and their repos and just having things set up so they work. I love it. You don't have the headaches like you do in Fedora or even OpenSUSE, where you have to go out of your way to get the codecs installed and mess around with the RPM fusion like in Fedora and just jump through all these extra hoops just to get everyday things that you use all the time. In other distros, just your normal codecs and drivers and stuff. So yeah, none of those headaches. So do I give OpenMandriva a thumbs up? I can't. I'm going to give it 2, maybe even 3, or 100, but I don't have that many thumbs. I love OpenMandriva. It's really fantastic. So yes, highly recommend it. I might even daily drive it on this computer. If you decide you want to try something new or just experiment with another distro, give OpenMandriva a try. Besides that, they don't inject themselves into all the BS and the political nonsense. So that's a huge one for me. I like that. That's something that scores points by default. So with that, I hope that all this was helpful. And if it was, don't forget to leave that thumbs up and hit subscribe. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.